Richard Griffiths' best performance isn't Harry Potter. It's a BBC show almost nobody talks about anymore. And it's not even the best one on this list. These are 10 BBC mysteries that deserve way more attention than they got. Richard Griffiths died in 2013, and most of the obituaries talked about Uncle Vernon and Harry Potter, or Uncle Monty and Withnail and I. But there's a whole group of fans who think his best work was this little show about a detective who just wanted to open a restaurant. The premise is so simple it's almost funny. Henry Crabb spent 25 years as a police inspector. He gets shot in the leg during a botched operation and thinks, okay, finally I can retire and do what I actually want to do. He opens a restaurant called Pie in the Sky with his wife, but his boss keeps blackmailing him into taking cases, so now he's trying to run a kitchen while also solving crimes. Every episode runs 2 storylines at once. One crime, one restaurant disaster. And here's what made the show unusual for its genre. People weren't dying every week. This wasn't one of those British villages where the murder rate rivals a major city. Sometimes the crimes were just theft or fraud. It ran for 5 series, 40 episodes, and looking back, it feels like the kind of thing BBC used to make when they valued subtlety over spectacle, light when everything else was going dark. Martin Shaw plays a London detective whose wife gets murdered. He transfers to the northeast of England, gets partnered with a younger cop named John who carries all the prejudices and impatience of a man in his 20s in 1964. The show runs in real time from 1964 to 1970, and every episode is 90 minutes long, which gives it room to breathe in ways that 1-hour shows can't manage. But the crimes aren't really the point. Shaw described his character's relationship with John in an interview once, and it explained everything about why the show works. He said gently lost his wife, never had children, and with John he had these twin impulses, wanting to train another policeman, but also wanting to have a son. That's the engine of the whole thing. 2 men from different generations, different backgrounds, stuck together in a car driving through 1960s England while everything around them is changing. The murders give them something to do. The relationship is why you keep watching. 25 episodes across 8 series, and most of the people who watched it will tell you it never got the attention it deserved. In 1994, ITV tried to adapt Reginald Hill's crime novels about 2 Yorkshire detectives. They cast comedians Hale and Pace, sketch comedy guys playing serious detectives investigating murders. The Independent called it breathtakingly miscast, and that was being polite about it. Reginald Hill watched what they did to his books and was so furious that he blocked ITV from ever making another adaptation. Just shut the door completely, no more chances. BBC came knocking in 1995 and Hill let them try. They cast Warren Clarke as this loud, vulgar, politically incorrect superintendent who somehow gets results despite being a nightmare to work with. Colin Buchanan played his partner, university-educated, refined, basically the opposite in every way. Clarke once described his character as a perfect pig, but then added that underneath all the vulgarity, the guy was actually a great humanitarian. And that tension is what made the show work for 12 series and 61 episodes. You'd watch Clarke be absolutely insufferable, and then he'd do something that showed you why he was still a cop after all these years. The show ran so long that it eventually split off from the books entirely. James Nesbitt plays a detective in Northern Ireland investigating a kidnapping that connects to a cold case from 1998. Someone was killing paramilitary figures on both sides back then, calling themselves Goliath. Nesbitt's character's wife was one of the victims. There's a twist around the midpoint that reframes everything you've been watching, and I won't spoil it, but it changes the show completely. The first episode pulled in 8.2 million viewers, which was the biggest BBC drama launch in Northern Ireland history. By any measure, that's a success. But the show had a problem it couldn't solve. It aired in the same Sunday night slot that Line of Duty used to occupy, and every review came back to that comparison. The Irish Times was brutal, calling it a tuneless cover version of the show it replaced. Others said the 2 series felt like they existed in the same universe, which wasn't meant as a compliment. Bloodlands isn't a bad show. The performances are strong and the twist genuinely lands, but it spent its entire run being measured against something else, and that's a shadow that's hard to escape no matter how good your ratings are. Carey Mulligan spent years doing the kind of roles Hollywood loves to put her in. Period pieces mostly. Weepy characters yearning for something they can't have, always said 100 years ago. She got tired of it. So she took this instead. A pizza delivery driver gets shot dead in South London. Mulligan plays the detective investigating what looks like a random killing, but turns out to connect to immigration policy, people trafficking, the military, and the Church of England. It's 4 episodes covering 4 consecutive days. David Hare wrote it, the playwright behind The Hours and The Reader, and he structured it as a why instead of a who. The killer is revealed before the first episode ends. The mystery is about the system that made the murder possible. Hare called it a police procedural without any of that police attitudinizing, and you can feel him trying to do something different with the genre. But some viewers felt like he was using the murder as an excuse to lecture them about immigration. The connections between characters stretched credibility. It's one of those shows where your opinion depends entirely on how much you trust the writer's intentions. In the late 2010s, there was this wave of Welsh noir shows. Hinterland, Keeping Faith, Requiem. Hidden came out right in the middle of that, and it might be the most stylish of all of them. And almost nobody saw it, because BBC stuck it on the Saturday night foreign language slot on BBC4. That's where shows go to die. The premise sounds straightforward at first. A detective named Caddy John comes back to North Wales to take care of her sick father. A body turns up. A girl who went missing years ago found with shackle marks on her. She'd been held captive somewhere for a long time. But here's what makes it different from every other crime show you've seen. They tell you who did it almost immediately. You're not trying to solve the mystery. You're watching the investigation close in on someone you already know is guilty while the show takes you inside his head. By Series 2, viewers were comparing the villain to Joseph Fritzl. It goes to some very dark places. Tommy Lynley is a detective at Scotland Yard. He's also the 8th Earl of Asherton. Aristocrat, Cambridge-educated, polished in that way only old-money English people can be. His partner, Barbara Havers, is working class, doesn't care how she looks, and has a chip on her shoulder the size of London. The whole show runs on that tension. 2 people from completely different worlds forced to work together. The author who created them, Elizabeth George, said she wanted to explore how people from utterly different backgrounds develop trust and respect. Nathaniel Parker and Sharon Small have this chemistry where you believe they drive each other crazy, but also can't imagine them with anyone else. 24 episodes across 6 series. You watch these 2 people who should hate each other slowly figure out how to be partners. It's satisfying in a way most procedurals never are. When BBC canceled the show in 2007, fans were angry enough to start a petition campaign. It didn't save the show, but that's the kind of loyalty it inspired. This is basically BBC's answer to Seven. If that sounds like your thing, you're going to love it. If graphic murder isn't for you, skip ahead. The first series has a killer murdering people who share names and professions with the 12 apostles. He kills each victim on their namesake Saint's Day, strips them, cuts out their tongues, leaves silver apostle spoons in their mouths. The show earned every content warning it got. What makes it work is Ken Stott as Detective Inspector Red Metcalf. It's some of the best acting he'd ever done, and the man has had a hell of a career. He brings this intensity where you believe the job has hollowed him out, but he can't stop doing it. The murders are disturbing, but Stott makes you care about the detective trying to stop them. Now here's what you need to know before you start. There are 5 series. Watch 1 through 4, do not watch 5. Stott left after Series 4, they brought in Mark Warren to replace him, hired new writers, basically made a different show with the same name, and it's not good. For about 9 years, this was one of the most beloved shows on British television. Cold case units staffed by retired detectives, led by a serving officer trying to wrangle them. The chemistry between Amanda Redman, James Bolam, Alan Armstrong, and Dennis Waterman made it work. Funny, warm, the kind of show people looked forward to every week. And then the cast started publicly trashing it while they were still on the show. James Bolam left first in 2012, said the show had become stale. Then Amanda Redman started giving interviews saying the writing had gotten more bland, that the characters weren't as anarchic as they used to be. Alun Armstrong said he wasn't enamored with his scripts anymore. Both of them announced they were leaving. A show that ran for 12 series, watched by millions of people, and by the end, the original cast was essentially telling viewers it wasn't worth their time anymore. That's a brutal way for something to end. This one's only 2 episodes, a P.D. James adaptation. But those 2 episodes are perfect if you love the Agatha Christie setup. Limited suspects, isolated location, bodies piling up. Commander Adam Dalglish gets sent to St. Anselm's, an Anglo-Catholic theological college on the coast. A student dies under suspicious circumstances. Then an archdeacon gets murdered. The place is crawling with secrets. There's a priest with a criminal past, an incestuous relationship, a student who doesn't know that one of his teachers is actually his father. There's a personal angle that most detective stories don't have. Adam actually spent summers at this college as a teenager. So he's not just investigating a crime, he's walking through a place that holds memories for him. And keep an eye out for a young Jesse Spencer. This was before House MD, before Chicago Fire. He plays a troubled student named Raphael Arbuthnot. You can already see why he'd go on to bigger things.